So what we are talking about is CRA. Who of you heard about CRA? We will come to this. So, the person who is annoying you today, hi, I'm Mario. I'm a custom delivery architect for Kubernetes. I also do a couple of stuff in open source, so I'm one of the co-chairs for the technical advisory group for operational resilience, and I'm also a co-chair for contributor experience for Kubernetes. You can find me with my handle basically everywhere. What am I doing in the cloud native world? Having stupid ideas. And I also title them as stupid ideas that people might be aware that they shouldn't do what I do. So basically what we did last year, around 1 month ago, I said, let's put in the birthday of Kubernetes inside of the Twitter account of Kubernetes, so that we get those nice balloons. Didn't work out well, because there's a policy, and policies are important, that people cannot use Twitter if they are not of the age of 13. So basically, because Kubernetes was only 10, the account got banned, and we needed to reactivate it. This took us 48 hours, and only with the help of people that we knew inside of Twitter. So now that we set the stage of why policies are important and why we need to follow policies, let's talk about the Cyber Resilience Act, which is also called CRA. So the CRA is a law in the first of its kind. There was never been a law that is so comprehensive and set regulations that are mandatory for cybersecurity for all products that have some kind of digital element in it ever before. So we have a law that is basically regulating the whole European Union. And also it applies to anything. Anything that has hardware in it, that has software in it, that can connect to a network. So it's basically smartwatches, it's toys, it's industrial control systems, it's everything. And the important thing is that it is also a fundamental shift of responsibility. And this will affect all of you soon. And it's basically established a first ever horizontal cybersecurity view in the European Union. And also we are using something that is old. We are using the CE. So you see this when you buy some hardware, the CE thing. That is also being used now for anything for cyber resilience. And we already know this. So, timeline. This is already active. So you're already too late. Which means it enters force in last year, in December. The good thing is we still have some time. So one important date to acknowledge you, that you should write down, is basically the 11th of September 2026, because within this time you need to report incidents, vulnerability incidents to authorities within 24 hours. So this is the first important date that you need to mark down. And by the end of the year, this goes into full effect. So 1 year later, sorry. By the end of 1 year later, it goes into full effect, and you cannot sell any product anymore without the CE logo. And also, there's like an end of transition for older rules. So, I did the math for you. You can thank me later. You have 1 year, 1 month, and 20 days to be CRA compliant. Why? Why do we have the CRA? Basically, the CRA was created in the first case because a lot of products came to the European Union, especially from Asian markets, without any regulation. Faulty hardware, faulty kitchen devices, faulty whatever. No one patched it, no one did any security on top of this, and basically all of those products flooded the European Union. Also, things happened like Log4Shell. Log4Shell basically broke a lot of companies because by a single flaw in a single open source project. And also, cybercrime is skyrocketing. And as you can see, and these are the statistics from the year before last year. So we have the numbers from 2023, and these are estimations. So cybercrime will cost all of us more and more and more money. By the way, what is the worth of open source? Anyone? 8.8 trillion dollars is the worth of open source based on a study which was published last year. So cybercrime already surpasses the, or will surpass the worth of open source just by tremendous amounts. So what we need to change is we now need to find two principles. We now need to have security by design. So basically, security is not something that we do later. Security is something that we must keep in mind in the moment we design a product or we bring a product anywhere. And it must be security by default. There is no longer the thing where I think every one of you heard like, yeah, they got into our network because no one changed the printer default password. There is no printer default password anymore. Because these are security flaws, and everyone here is responsible as on a manufacturer side that does something like this is not integrated in their products. If you are interested in more information, bse.bund.de has a long paper that will help you to read through all of those requirements. So, we have two principles that we need to enforce. We have product security, which means that we need to have products to the market delivered clean, so without any known vulnerability. We need to have all personal data that is used in those devices to be secure and protected and encrypted. So we need to have state-of-the-art encryptions for all of this stuff. And we need to have access control so that basically no one can access without the privileges. So we basically need to have a least privileges first setup. And it comes to resilience as well. So if you have, for example, virtual goods, DDoS attacks, you need to be prepared against DDoS attacks and any denial of service that you have for your system. And you need to reduce any surface in your software or in your hardware or in your good that you sell where hackers can basically access it. On the other hand, you're also obligated to have vulnerability handling, which means CRA, when you sell a product, you need to support it for 5 more years. So you're responsible if something happens in 5 years. Basically, you need to identify and handle vulnerabilities. You need to have an update way in place. You need to have free securities for life, for the lifetime of a product. So this is currently not fully clear if it's 10 years, 5 years, or end of product, because end of product could be a while. And for public disclosure, once a patch is available, you need to inform everyone that there was shit going down. So everyone is now, nah, I'm not affected by this. No, we don't have a digital product. We are only selling a coffee machine. We are not part of this, right? Guess what? You probably are. Most of the companies are not aware of CRA. There are clear rules for CRA, and also a lot of companies have not even started looking at it. So you're not alone. 62% of companies in Europe or that are asked by the Linux Foundation in a survey in 2025, beginning of 2025, are either not familiar or only slightly familiar with the regulations of CRA. Basically, this means they don't know stuff. 51% don't know what the deadlines are. I showed you, so now you know. So you're no longer part of the 51%. 59% are also unaware how much it will cost you. And 42% don't even know if it applies for their product. And guess what? Mostly it will. So, am I affected? The question that you need to ask yourself is, do you sell a product with digital elements? And this means selling. That does not mean that you're the manufacturer, the importer, or the distributor. It's just like I sell product in the European Union with a digital element. What is a digital element? A digital element is basically any hardware or the software that can then directly or indirectly connect to a network. So my smart coffee maker is a digital product. Global impact. As you see, it affects everyone that wants to sell a good in the European Union. So basically, if you want to sell in Europe, you need to comply, no matter if your company is in the US, in Asia, or wherever, because you need to apply with European law. So basically, this is a global law. There are certain products which are excluded from the CRA. The only reason why they are excluded from the CRA is because they have more stricter regulations already. So, we saw the penalties. So, you will pay 15 million or 2.5 of your company's total worldwide annual turnover, whatever is higher, if you have a severe violation on this. And the other thing that might be even more impactful, you can be banned from selling products in the European Union. So TLDR, you stop selling products in Europe. Have fun. So, now we're getting somewhere. Who is liable? So this is the change that happened. Liable are manufacturers in all of their glory. They need to be compliant, they need to have due diligence for open source products that they use, they need to have conformity assessments, and they need to validate support over a product lifecycle. The open source software stewards, so foundations like Apache, Linux Foundation, CNCF, whatsoever, they also have some rules. So, like the regulatories, we need to document cybersecurity policies. We have voluntary vulnerability reporting, and we support market surveillance companies, authorities. And the best thing, and the best thing is always the smallest one, open source contributors have no obligations whatsoever. And this is the huge change there. So, who of you is using open source? I don't see all of the hands because you are all using open source. But you're also using it. So basically it's all of them. So 90 to 69% of software that is being delivered is open source already, because most of the components are open source. And 46% of the companies don't do shit to contribute to open source. They just consume. And there's one saying, and this saying is not new, this saying is old. Open source maintainers owe you nothing. Also a cool blog. So if everyone is interested, read the blog. Read this for a second. This happened a lot of times. Nice, right? You all know this thing with this small thing that broke, log4j and stuff like this. So, although we don't owe you anything, we still got you covered. Open source projects created an ecosystem to help you to build supply chains, to build anything that makes your products and things more more compliant and work towards the compliance in CRA. So basically, we have now a switch of ways. We have the new dynamic. Basically, companies pressured in the past, hey, fix this bug for me, as we saw. And the new way is that manufacturers now need to fix vulnerabilities in open source and also to report any of the stuff back upstream. And basically, what this changes is you are now more or less forced to contribute to open source. What we have. So what's the important bit, so that you also get something positive out of this? SBOM. Who knows what an SBOM is? Great, then I don't have to talk about it. So basically, SBOM, software bill of materials, it gives you the what software do I use, because I only can comply with stuff that I know, so I need a list of software that I use. There are formats that are machine readable, like SPDX or CycloneDX. There are also tools for generating them, and that's basically the next thing. We have tools for generating open SBOM lists for your code and also for open source code. And the good thing is, those are all open source projects. You're welcome. So basically, you can use those projects to generate your SBOM list, and depending on your use case. So for example, what we are currently building within the CNCF, we are currently building an SBOM list for each of the projects based on the source code. And because I'm lazy, I use Sift. With Sift, we then ingest it in a tool that we will see on a later slide. But basically, use those tools and build those tools into your development cycle. Also, the next step, vulnerability scanning. Basically, an SBOM tells you what you have, but it does not tell you is anything is insecure. It basically, vulnerability scanning helps you to find known vulnerabilities. So because you are needed to ship your product without any vulnerability. So automated vulnerability scanning is now essential for your lifecycle. We also got you covered there. So there are tools like Gripe, that have software composition analysis. We have OWASP dependency check that basically works. We also have applications for static application security testing and dynamic application security testing. And who of you have been here last year? Who of you heard my talk about the security stuff that I did last year? You see some of those things repeat themselves. I talked about them last year already. Basically, I don't want to tell you, but DevSecOps is, I told you so. Implement DevSecOps in your companies, because this is the main thing that you need to implement. You need to start your security from the beginning of your project. So basically, DevSecOps is now law. I'm lazy. I just put in my thing that how I did it for CNCF. So basically, I generate SBOM with Sift. So I generate my inventory. I scan with Gripe for vulnerabilities, and then I basically define if a vulnerability is even exploitable in this thing with OpenVex. Vex is the vulnerability exploitable exchange something, which basically highlights, is this valid for me or not? And of course, you can't do this manual. If you do this manual in your development process, you will never, ever finish anything. So you need basically to automate all of this stuff. So you need to implement all of this stuff in your supply chain. I promised you a bonus. The bonus round is GWAC. GWAC is an open source project, and it's basically there. It's nice that I have a machine-readable SBOM list. But what do I do with it? It's nice that I have it. I also need to understand it. And GWAC basically helps me to understand this stuff. GWAC is basically a graph project that ingests, now coming back to the first thing, we are ingesting your software bill of materials of all of your projects and your dependencies of all of your different parts inside of your software, and make it visible. Because then you can say, hey, I use this package in this version. Has this version been a vulnerability? Yay or nay? So I need to update this package. Also, it helps you to find what are the licenses of the packages I use. Do you know all of the licenses that you're using? Probably not. Even the CNCF doesn't know it. We are working on this. But it takes the time. And also, it also tells you which open source projects have, for example, a poor OpenSSF scorecard. So, now that I put you on the ground with, you need to fix all this stuff, you're not alone. The community or open source community is aware of all this stuff. They are especially the Open Source Security Foundation, which is working on stuff to make open source projects compliant and also to create security informations about it. We have the Linux Foundation who is pushing it. You have the other foundations also working on it. As mentioned, I'm currently building up together with folks from the CNCF a GWAC for all of the CNCF projects, so that we can basically have SBOMs for all of the CNCF projects. And it's a massive collaboration to tackle this. There are also blueprints provided by the OpenSSF for open source projects. So there's the OpenSSF baseline security. It's a checklist. It's a great project point for any open source project to measure against, and you can also use it for your own software, obviously. There's an OpenSSF scorecard that tells you, hey, this is a major project, majority level of the project, how many people are contributing to it, and stuff like this to give you an understanding of what is the problem or what could be the problem. There's also case studies and guides, how projects adapted to CRA. You can basically find all of this at openssf.org/projects. And that's basically the main message. It doesn't help to passively consume open source projects in the future. The open source world also provided you with a, hey, I don't know what CRA is. Please help me. There's a course. You can take it. It's free. We need people everywhere. We need people to help with security. We need help in open source projects. So Contributor is basically good first issues in CNCF world. And we have a newly formed technical advisory group inside of the CNCF, which is for operational resilience, which is basically purely about day 2 operations, chaos engineering, observability, sustainability, and so on and so forth. And every input is welcome there. And if you say, okay, that's maybe too much, then hire OSS maintainers, because OSS maintainers also want to eat and have a job and somewhere. So basically, help open source to help you. TLDR for the executive level. What to do now? Figure out what your product portfolio is. Are you affected? What is the risk? What is the scope? Form a task force. this is not something that your IT department can do. This is not something that cloud or platform engineers can do. This is something where everyone needs to be involved. It's product management, procurement, legal, whatsoever. Find out gaps in your system, find out requirements that you need to fulfill, develop a roadmap, and you saw the end of the roadmap is a fixed state, so you don't have much option, and get involved with the community. And ultimately, create an open source strategy in your company, because if you know when a fix will come out, because you know who's doing the release for the fix of a CVE, this might help you also to fulfill your reporting requirements. So, CRAs is not a bad thing. CRA is actually a good thing. It makes cybersecurity on a higher standard. It is global because we are basically pushing it out from Europe into the world. And it helps you also if you say, hey, I am compliant, I have a compliant product. No customer will ever say that I don't buy your software because you're compliant with something. People will tell you, we don't buy your software when you're not compliant with something. So basically, that's the chance to get a head start of having this implemented before 2027. I'm sorry to ruining your day, but thank you anyway. And I am open for any questions. Yes. I mean, the easiest thing is be compliant. And the good thing is most of the compliance stuff is you can automate it. If you build in your development pipeline tools like vulnerability scanner, code scanner, and you start from a security perspective and not from I build software and hope that it works. If you just have it as part of your product from the very beginning, and in an automated way, it basically would be able to automate even the reporting of, hey, there's a CRA that comes out there, and we have a patch already listed there because we know that this package needs to be updated because of this package we had in the software. I think it's not so much an overhead if you implement a tooling set that automates all of the stuff. And also with the help of AI, and I know nobody wants to hear about this, but everyone is using AI, you also can leverage AI tools for those scanners to say, like, this is the list of of current CVEs, figure out if any of my packages are implemented in this. So you just need to build a security layer in your development cycle. That's basically the core. And as mentioned, there are white papers published, how to do stuff, how to build stuff. It's like just copy-paste the tool set. Any other question? Yes?
So let's say I'm selling a service that is on Kubernetes, which is then running on AWS or Google.
Yeah.
Where does the CRA stop?
Interesting question. If you sell the service, you are the last responsible point. You can then go to Kubernetes and say, hey, you are now the point to me. And then Kubernetes can, potentially then someone else can also go to Google and say, hey, you're responsible for but you are the last selling point to the customer, which means that you're affected by the CA.
Basically, I was
Yeah, and then you can basically, you are then buying it from us, and then we are responsible towards you, but that's basically the chain that, the rabbit hole that it will go down. So you're not alone, it's not only your fault. If Kubernetes is not compliant, then you could technically put the blame on us if you fulfilled all of your roles, which means you have everything updated, everything on the latest version, every patch release installed, and so on and so forth. This then depends on the case.
What if I sell a product and my upstream company does no longer exist when something like this goes wrong?
First problem, all of the products that are ingested into the CNCF no longer have a single company as an upstream project. And this is also a mandatory health issue that comes up if you only have one. So there are usually more than one company. And the other thing is, for example, when Flux2, when Weaveworks went out of business, Weaveworks was basically the only maintainer for Flux2. And what then happened is like, there was a call for help from the project. This went into the technical oversight committee. There was a call for help. Then companies like Microsoft and Control Plane jumped in and said like, hey, we are hiring 2 of the maintainers of the project to keep this up. If you are the only company who is consuming the project, then maybe hire a maintainer. That's what I said.
I'm not talking about open source project, I'm talking about commercial products that for example, Chinese webcams. 2 years later, the company may no longer exist. I sold this webcam in Germany.
Then
I'm lost.
Yeah.
Okay.
You should not have buy it without a software bill of material. You need to maintain your supply. I know, it's hard, but it was your fault in the beginning not to have this contractual worked out.
I have a software bill of material, but I can't fix the firmware of this camera. And is there something like responsibility, like SBOM or some what we have normally, like SBOM things where I put my source code, everything somewhere, and in case I go bankrupt, the customer has the right to get the software there.
That's something that might come up during this transition period, but so far, no.
Question about reporting vulnerabilities. Is it like you need to post it in the blog or wherever, or there is a specific process you follow out that you govern?
TBD. I mean, it's in effect now. It does not mean that everything is in place now. We are still in Europe, right?
Is there anything what we should know how to become open source stewards to interact with?
Individuals cannot become open source stewards. It's basically foundations usually take over open source stewardship, or companies take over open source stewardship if the project remains within a company. Then they are basically the open source steward. Whenever a project enters a foundation, the foundation becomes the open source steward. And if you are a single person, that was the developer slide, if you're a single person with a single project, you don't care, because you're not liable. If you don't make profit. When you make profit, other story. Then you're a vendor again. So if you say, I will give you support to my open source project, then you're technically a vendor.
What makes you so sure that the CRA will create more funding in the future for open source?
Because security patches need to be applied. You are obligated as a company to fix upstream security stuff.
I'm not obligated to provide it upstream. I'm only obligated to fix it in my own.
Yeah, good luck forking all of the open source projects that you're using. I mean, yes, you can do this, but then you need to maintain forks for all of your projects that you're using. a lot of folks of the OpenSSF and Linux Foundation and foundations have been involved in the law creation.
But for example, if I send me a digital product, so that means that there are a lot of the open source components that are directly affected during the customer interaction, but I have a lot of the open source products that are not directly faced, let's say. That means
I mean,
prioritize this one.
if there's a security issue that affects your product, that's what I meant with figure out if it's applicable for you or not. Then it basically is like, yeah, you need to take care of it. Or you need to at least to report it and fix it so that it's, or help to fix it. I mean, technically, let's face it, Kubernetes had or Nginx had a severe CVE in April. The CVE was announced, or security committee was made aware of the vulnerability. 1 day later, the CVE was announced. At the same day, the patch release came out for Kubernetes, and you could patch it. So you are not. Open source will still help you maintain the stuff. The problem is, the more issues we have, this work needs to be done by some people, and there will always be some lurkers. But it's there's now more liability towards open source projects, and no longer this, hey, there's the issue, fix this. But they need still to track all of the stuff. Yes, there will be black sheep. There always have been black sheep, and there always will be black sheep. I mean, when you look at the job market, how many people get laid off in the last couple of months? Most of them were open source maintainers. Congratulations. This is a chance now for European companies to step up, because the benefit is we are getting more and more involved in any of the big open source projects, because companies like Google, Red Hat, and so on stepping down from also leadership positions. This means also that European companies can steer the way of specific open source projects to the needs of European requirements. So this is a chance. But honestly, when I look at dev stats, and I look for European companies, it's a sad shit show. Our company is on place 65 for contributions to CNCF globally in the last decade, and we are 60 people. That's a joke. Potentially, I have it not in my mind. I'm sorry. It's somewhere in the CRA declaration. I linked it also in the. I will upload the slides. There, it's linked in the BSE CRA definition. There's like everything that you need to comply. That's basically read the text. Now enjoy lunch.